Greetings from Mesa View United Methodist Church of Albuquerque, New Mexico. We hope this message will be meaningful and relevant to your life and your relationship with God. We invite you to join us for worship on Sunday mornings. Our traditional service is at 8:30 a.m. and at 11 a.m. we gather for contemporary worship. More information may be found at our website, mesaviewumc.com. Now may you be blessed through the reading and hearing of God's holy word.
The Hebrew scripture reading this morning comes from the book of Habakkuk, chapter 1, and we have verses 1 through 4, chapter 2, 1 through 4. O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and will you not listen? Or cry to you violence, and you will not save? Why do you make me see wrongdoing and look at trouble? Destruction and violence are before me, strife and contention arise. So the law becomes slack and justice never prevails. The wicked surround the righteous, therefore judgment comes forth perverted. I will stand at my watchpost and station myself on the rampart. I will keep watch to see what he will say to me and what he will answer concerning my complaint. And then the Lord answered me and said, write the vision, make it plain on tablets, so that a runner may read it. For there is still a vision for the appointed time. It speaks of the end, and it does not lie. If it seems to tarry, wait for it. It will surely come, it will not delay. Look at the proud, their spirit is not right in them, but the righteous live by their faith. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God. Ago, we were in the midst of the Healthy Church Initiative, also known as HCI, which gave us some goals to be working on for the past year. Some of those were connectional opportunities. This being one of those recommendations is to come together as one body more often, so combining the two worship services, and also to be working on small groups. Another one was to set a pathway to discipleship, all the classes we would be offering and how they work from those who are new to the faith, for those who have been in the faith for a long time, and how we continue to deepen our faith lives. Then third was to work on financial issues, which we continue to work on. And then the fourth was on leadership development, developing the leaders we already have in place, but also developing and raising up new leaders from within the congregation, which we are continuing to do. So as Leadership Council has been working on those, one of the things that came out of that is we began talking about who are we as a body. These are things that we're going to be working on, but who are we meant to be? Who has God called us to be? And so Leadership Council created a new mission statement, and that is that we are called to know and love God and our neighbor through relationship, service, and witness. And so we began evaluating what we do around the church against that statement. And we began talking about, as we come to the end of the HCI process, where do we go from there? And so Leadership Council began talking about doing some strategic planning, which we completed our retreat last weekend. And so it was not originally in my plan. I was actually going to be preaching on Zacchaeus, and it occurred to me last week as we gathered together as a body, Reverend Sherry Lyon, who was facilitating the group for us, said, how are you going to communicate this back to the congregation? And I said, well, next Sunday, as we come together as one body, seems like a perfect time to do that. I'm sort of ashamed to say I hadn't thought of doing that before this took place. But the group who was gathered there, which was more than just Leadership Council, was also some other key leaders and opinion leaders in the congregation, said that that would be a great way to communicate that. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is the decisions that were made last weekend on the strategic planning for this congregation. The strategic planning is not about where we are now. It's about where we want to be. So imagine that you're sitting here at a table in the year 2020. What does this church look like? And what are we doing? What are the activities and the ministries and the programs that we're running and are taking place? That's what we want to look at, is where are we going to be in 3 to 5 years from now, and then work backwards to figure out how we hit those goals. And so they have come up with 7 different plans, and I had some nice graphics up on the screen that you were going to be able to see, and you'll just have to imagine them for yourself. Sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words, but today I'm going to need 1,000 words to paint you that picture. But before we got to those goals that we were working on, leadership has been talking for a while now, for several months, about what are our values. Who are we as a people? What drives us? What are the values, the good values that we have, such as caring for one another? What are the negative values that we hold? Lack of accountability was one that was brought up. That we have, but we want to get rid of that one. We want to support and build up the caring. And so one of the things that we worked on at the plan first was to come up with, what are our values? Who are we as a people? And we started out with about 65 different values that we named of who we are, things that we think that are important to us. And we narrowed those down to 6 that sort of encapsulate many of them. And they're not in any particular order, but we do begin first with being Christ-centered. I hope that that's truly who we are, that we are followers of Christ. That's at the center and the most important thing about who we are and what we do, is followers of Christ. The second is that we are prayerful. That is, we engage in prayer in our personal lives. We pray for the church. We pray for those who are in need. We pray for our nation. We pray as a people. When we gather together, prayer is part of who we are and what we do. And when we're looking for plans or whatever it is that we might be undertaking, that prayer is at the heart of how we begin to be centered. The third was relationships. Thank you for my lovely PowerPoint assistant over here this morning. Relationships being a broad category that falls under that we care for one another, that we're welcoming to one another, that when people are in time of need or in time of celebration, we come together, that we build up relationships. The third is that we are engaged in learning and study. That is, that we don't ever know everything there is to know about our faith, that we're constantly learning more and engaging with new people, and so we're constantly learning new things, not just here in worship, but through that pathway of discipleship. So you can sort of see some of the things that we've done at HCI are continuing in our strategic planning process. The fifth is diversity. That we are diverse, not just in gender or in ethnic identity, but we're diverse theologically. We're diverse politically, maybe. When we first raised that, somebody said, no, we don't want diverse political. We all want to think the same. But we bring lots of different people here, and we seek them out, and we welcome them in. And some of that might be say, well, we look around and we don't seem very diverse right now. So we say, okay, so what do we need to do if diversity is one of our values? What do we need to do to become more diverse? How do we need to think different? What do we need to do different so that other people who are not like us will feel welcome, feel like they can become a part of this community? That's how also we build relationships. And the sixth was service and outreach. That is, that we don't exist within these walls, that we reach out and do service and outreach to the community. That's how we also build relationships. It's not just with us, it's also with our community, with our neighbors, and with others that we are reaching out to be in service to. So there are lots of things that then fall under those that we didn't name. So one of the values that we said was we like to grow. We like to grow not only numerically in the number of people who are attending, the people who are attending faith development classes, that we're growing personally and spiritually, but all growth falls in underneath many of those other values. So there's other pieces that we named as values that we have or we want to uplift, but they fall under those 6 categories. These sort of act as bridges. That was what our facilitators kept talking about. Is this is where we are now, and in order to get to where we want to be, our values are what supports that bridge, that carry us over from one place to the next. And so you're going to hear us talking a lot more about who are we and what these values are and how we use them to evaluate everything that we do. Is it building up relationships? Is it increasing diversity? Is it increasing spiritual growth? Is it Christ-centered? Is it prayerful? So as we continue to move forward, hold us accountable to these values just as much as we might hold you accountable to these values as well, as an evaluative tool, as well as saying, this is who we are. And so when new people come to the church now, this is one of the things I'm most excited about, because when people come and say, who is Mesa View? What are you about? I can pull out these values and say, this is who we say that we are, and what we truly value and what we're working towards. So we started with our values, and then we led into goals, where we want to be. And what we sort of looked at was there are 4 C's that they talked about. That is that with things that are already there, you can catapult it forward. That is, make a big jump. You're going to put all your effort into moving them forward. You can just continue with the program. Say, it's doing fine, and it's just going to keep going. We're not going to really put an enormous amount of energy into it, but it's something we do, and it's just going to keep going. You can cage an idea. That is, say, it's going to keep going. There's somebody who has passion and excitement about that particular issue, and that's great. And as long as they're here, that program is going to be here, but if they go away, that program will go with them. And that's okay. That we as a congregation are going to support it, but we're not going to own it. It's going to be owned by that one person, so we sort of cage it. And then the 4th would be, we're going to create new things. This is something we're not doing that we should be doing, or we would like to be doing. And so as we were looking at our goals, then we listed out all the things we're currently doing and sort of said, we're going to continue doing these, we're going to cage these. Some others, sort of already going away. We'll figure out what to do with those. But then here are things that we're doing that we're going to catapult. We're going to put lots of energy and direction into them to move them forward, and some new things that we're going to create, new programs that we think we need to be doing in order to be reaching out to our community. And we broke those down into the 3 areas from our mission statement: to know and love God and our neighbor through relationship, service, and witness. And there are lots of things that we do can fall into all 3 of those categories, so we just sort of generalized where we thought it fit best. And so I'm going to call some people forward to talk about those goals, and hopefully they remembered this. And we're going to start with relationship. And Chris, if you could talk about relationship. And again, there's a beautiful slide that was going to be up there for you, but I do have notes so that you can have your 2 bullet points here.
Okay, under relationships, one of our goals in the next 3 to 5 years is to build relationships through small groups. Now, we currently have some small groups operating in the church. Many of you are members of a small group. But just very quickly, there's 3 actual categories of small groups. The first is an affinity group. You get together in a group and you socialize, you have a good time, maybe a dinner group goes out to dinner once a month, whatever you do in that regard. The second one is an informational type of a small group. That could be a Bible study. Maybe there's a book by Adam Hamilton or something you want to talk about. It could be a Sunday school class, but you're using material and you're gaining information in this small group as you study together and build that relationship. The third group is more of a caring group. It's more of an accountability group. It's a small group where basically you get together, you don't study a book, you meet maybe once a week, maybe once every other week, but you meet and you share with each other. How have I seen Christ at work in my life in this past week? How is it with your soul? How has God been speaking to you? And these are very limited time. You wouldn't want to meet for more than an hour, but that's more of a caring and accountability group. What our goal also was is by 2018, one of our goals is to have maybe better than half of our congregation in some type of a small group. That would be your pick. But this is how you build relationships. You get to know each other. You get to share. And we disciple each other. And we could talk all day long about going out in the community and witnessing and being a disciple for Jesus Christ, but we first have to learn ourselves how to be a disciple before we can go out and talk to others. We surveyed the congregation, and a lot of people belong to a small group already, and it would probably be one of those 3 groups that I mentioned. And these groups can be short-term or long-term. There's several of you in here that have participated in Disciple Bible Study. That's kind of a long-term commitment. That's 34 weeks, and you meet every week. That's long-term, and that's not for everybody. But there's all kinds of different studies and small groups we can belong to. The other goal is to communicate to the congregation how our small group ministry is going, and communicate the value of those small groups. The ones that we have, the ones that we can dream about, and we want input from you. What kind of small group would you like to see the church have? Maybe you would like to start one. And we're open to that, because that is going to build relationships. We would also like to target the Parents' Night Out and the preschool. We have a wonderful preschool here that has a very high enrollment, between 95 and 100 kids, and the parents of those preschool kids that come here every week, if we target them and talk to those parents, we can come up with programs to reach them and get them involved in our church. So those are part of our goals, and that's what we discussed in small groups as far as creating the relationships. Oh, congregational care. It's the whole sheet. Congregational care. This is where the congregation responds to the needs of its members. And we have a congregational care committee. We have people that have signed up to do either hospital visits, to take meals to shut-ins, this type of thing. And this is congregational care where we can volunteer. We can be a part of caring for our own church members in times of need. So that's a second part.
Yep, thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
So I'd say that's times not only of crisis, but also times of celebration in which we come together as a congregation to respond to one another's needs as well. And so I am going to, who had service is Hank and Linda Bonnell. Hank Humiston. And I don't know if you guys want to split it the way you did on Saturday, or how you want to. You could start with your mission.
One of the things that has always been part of this church is a mission. That's part of our service and going out to other people. I was sitting in a meeting one time, on a ministry meeting, and one of the members in that meeting said, "You know what I like about this? This meeting is about what we can do, not what we can't do." So that is one of the reasons we are still going to be a very missional church. It's one of our values. We are going to, by January 1, 2018, establish a monthly mission project for this church. And what that mission project is going to be is it can be varied in many ways. We're going to need to have somebody be a coordinator for that, to find a mission somewhere, maybe across the town, maybe at another church, maybe one of our members needs their cooler fixed. Whatever it might be, that mission group is going to go out and do some work. And every month there will be something new. So if somebody wants to do it this month, it's something if you're called to, have the time to do, you can sign up and go out and do that. We also forgot what I was going to say. That's what you did. So, since I forgot, it probably wasn't important anyway. And I'm going to turn this over to Linda.
Well, we are starting next month with
Very Merry Christmas. Yes. Okay, so for one of our first mission projects, we're just going to start right away. And one of those is going to be the Very Merry Christmas, like we did last year, with Sam's great leadership. And that is to bring bears down to the church, and then we give them to the fire department so they can give them to kids who have on the street of disaster. We also have one that we can do in November. The Methodist Children's Home has an office here in town, and they're going to have a Christmas store. And the Christmas store is, people have donated books and toys and things for gifts. And what they need, what was the date, John? Do you remember?
Actually, they're changing the date, so they'll get back to me.
Okay. So in the month of November, they're going to get together and they're going to wrap these gifts and get them ready to give to other people. So that is also a chance for us as a mission team to go and join in.
Hank,
Yes.
the Covenant Group has a monthly mission of the snack bags, which are here today. Be sure and take one with you if you still need them.
And that actually falls under the one Linda's going to be talking about.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I wanted to mention Irene Bishop, you can raise your hand over there, is on our team as well. So I just wanted to recognize her. She had great input on our other goal. So again, just in review for the service, the first goal is establish a monthly mission project by January 2017, which is what Hank mentioned. And our second goal, we had two, was to implement a church-wide food ministry, which we sort of are doing a little bit, but just expand on that a bit. We want to have a full implementation by 2018, which seems like a long time away, but that gives us a year to kind of reevaluate what we're doing and how we want to get that to materialize a little bit more, explore a few things that some of the team members came up with during our Saturday meeting. We couldn't decide it all in a day, so this is why it's going to take a little bit. One of the things we decided to cage, which means we're not going to catapult it forward as a church-wide food ministry, is the monthly food pantry at Harvest Church. We do have members of this church that participate, and we will continue. So it's kind of one of those cage or continue, but it will not be something we're catapulting, as a church. So we wanted to be sort of clear on that, because there's been some questions. My husband and I, my daughter, we participate in that. We like distributing the food, but it will not be one that we're catapulting forward. The things that we thought were important to catapult forward was the continue the food ministry snack bags with the Covenant Group. So that was really clearly an important ministry. I love giving those bags out myself. Of course, I work at the VA hospital. I could get out a truck full in one day with all the people standing on the corner, but it gives you an opportunity also to talk to people. And that's what the ministry is all about with the snack bags. I love it. So that was actually number one. So there you go. Number two was the food pantry. We do have a food pantry that Al has started, and of course he's no longer here, but we continue. We donate food every Sunday. We've got food coming in from everyone from the church. So we want to look at that. We want that to fall under the mission team. Before it was sort of under Al, and so we want to formalize it a little bit more. So it is something we're catapulting forward. We want to develop sort of a standard operating procedure for that, on how are we doing that, what's that all about, so we're clear, everybody understands, so it kind of works like clockwork. And so that food pantry will be falling under the mission team. So we will be identifying a coordinator for that program, but again, it will be within that mission team. And the third thing on the food ministry is to explore, again, not necessarily we're going to explore the idea of freezer meals. And we've done freezer meals here before, where you make up meals, freeze them so you have them ready to go. And this can be either something the mission team could use or others for outside use, or it could be our congregational care group giving them to our own folks, people that are sick, people that need, something because they can't make the food themselves, some hospitalization or something where the other family members might need a little help. And so it's kind of a two-part thing, and that's something we're going to explore because we find value in that. So those are the three sub-goals within the overall establishing or catapulting forward our food ministry program.
Thank you, Linda. And then finally, I believe it was John Foley who was doing witness, but I know Leanna had done part of that too, and I'm not seeing Leanna here this morning. Is that correct, John, or was it somebody else on your team who was reporting
I think
this
Liz was
morning?
working on that, right?
Yeah, I was also on that.
Okay. So one of the two of you, or both of you.
I didn't get you.
Sorry, I mean, witness.
So John and myself and others, including Leanna, we worked on the witness goals, and I'm going to talk about two of them. One of them is to establish a presence of Mesa View west of our location. We are the furthest south Methodist congregation in the west side of Albuquerque, and the west side is moving western. That's an official word now. It's moving western, and so we want to make sure that we are moving west with it and being a presence. And we talked mostly about a presence within the schools as a place to start, to help the schools in being in ministry to the children there, and inviting families to join us at Mesa View, or even the possibility of opening a satellite Mesa View location western of here. And then we also want to work on building a nurturing Christian community for youth, which we have an awesome youth group right now, and we want to continue to work on that ministry. So explore more group activities and things that we can do to nurture the youth that are here and the youth that are coming.
Thanks, Linda. I've got the third one, and that is to declare Mesa View as a reconciling congregation. We took this topic up in our Sunday school class, the Seekers, and it was very well received. And at this point in time, we're taking a look at what it means for this congregation to be a reconciling congregation. Now you will ask, I am sure, what is a reconciling congregation? A reconciling congregation is one that opens itself to people of all persuasions, and in particular, we're concerned about being open to people with varying gender identification at the LGBT community. So we are viewing this as a challenge that we have, and something that our congregation could very well become, is a reconciling congregation where people of all persuasions and all natural sexual identities become a part of our welcoming community. So you're going to hear more about that as we go through our years. It's going to be exciting, and if you have a question of that particular goal, please see Linda or myself.
Thank you, John. And thank you to all of our presenters this morning. So those are our 7 goals. Again, it doesn't mean that we're not doing other things. You know, if there's a funeral, we still have people who come together to provide care for the family, as well as provide, meals at the funeral service or whatever it might be. Lots of other things that we're doing, there's still continue to do. But those are the 7 target areas that the congregation or the leadership has decided to focus ourselves on for the next 3 to 5 years, which means that some of them, those goals were, by January 1, we're going to start having every month, there'll be a mission team going somewhere to do some work. Other of those goals will take us a little longer, like the small group, we've been working on that through the HCI process, and we'll continue to work on that. That's going to take us a while to build into that, so don't expect that some of these are going to be done instantaneously. It's going to take us a while to reach some of them. And so you'll see that as they were talking, there are now pieces of paper put up on the wall. So at the end of service, we're going to have people who have participated at the strategic planning process. Actually, let me get, if everybody who is here at the strategic planning retreat would please stand. And I know we're missing a couple of people who are not here this morning. It was actually 17 of us who participated in that process. So thank you very much first for helping us in that. And they will be standing. They've all chosen one of the target areas, and they'll be standing at one of those first to answer any questions you have. But more importantly, the next step is how do we as a body of Christ support these? It can't be just 17 people who make these things that happen. We all have to do it. And so it might be that you have a particular interest in, maybe there's a charity that you really love and support, and you think that we should have, one of the months we should go there and assist them. So you could go over to the monthly mission team and say, I have somebody and I'm willing to cheer up for that particular month to do that, or you have an idea, or you have a question again. So there'll be people, each of the things right at the end of service. We're going to take 10 minutes. You can't eat until we do this step. So it's really important for you to go over and just one idea, talk to them, say I'm interested in volunteering or participating, whatever it might be, so that we begin to own this as a congregation. The one thing I keep sort of emphasizing to leadership is as we're doing these things is about sustainability. There are things that we do, again, it's one person's passion. So Kristen Levan, who's not with us this morning, is an attorney, provides valuable resources to us as a congregation when we have legal questions. But one Friday a month, she's here providing free legal services, mainly for people outside the congregation. We get calls on a fairly regular basis in the office, when are you doing that next? So, that's Kristen's passion. We give her the space. When Kristen's here, it's going to keep going. But if Kristen would unfortunately have to leave us, we hope that's not the case, it would probably go with her. So again, we're going to keep doing, and we're going to support that, but these are the things that we as a congregation are going to own for ourselves, and it has to be sustainable. The only way it's sustainable is if we own it. Kristen's thing, as great as it is not sustainable unless we get other lawyers who are willing to keep doing that same thing. It has to be sustainable by us building it up. That's why I thought that, I was going to preach on Zacchaeus today, but then looked at that passage from Habakkuk, and, God works in mysterious ways, and here he is, Habakkuk's talking about vision. Write the vision, make it plain on tablets so the runner may read it. That means you're running by, and it's so big that you can see what that vision is. That's what we want these to be, is our visions that we're writing on these tablets, for there is still a vision for the appointed time. We surrounded this process in prayers. I hope that many of you did the same thing. We believe that this is where God has called us and where God is leading us for where we're going to be and what we're going to focus on to be a bigger and better congregation than we already are, because our best year is when? It's next year. The best year this church has ever had is next year. And next year it'll be the year after that, because that's where we're going for. We don't go backward as people. We pick up and follow, moving forward, following Christ into a bold, scary sometimes vision for where God has called us to be and what God has called us to do. So I thank you for allowing us this time. I again thank everybody who was here for the strategic planning process, and for all of you for supporting this and being in prayer for us as well.
And I just wanted to add, if you didn't see as I hung them up and people shared, so we have monthly missions over here and food ministry over here. I wrote as big as I can, but I don't know if you can see it while you're running. Food is important, so I didn't put any groups meeting by the food, so people can see it. So this is what you do to entertain yourself while you're waiting for the food to be set out and ready. So food ministry, monthly mission. Back here by the doors is congregational care. Up here, relationships, small groups. Over on the side, presence west of Mesa View, youth group, and John at the back with reconciling congregations.
Thank you for your PowerPoint help this morning. So if you have celebrations or concerns to lift up to God, you'll find a prayer